All right, there we go. I didn't realize that would turn itself off. Look at that. The producer is me having some fun, joined by Matt, Fantasy Tips Belman, or Fantasy Tips Matt on DFS Twitter. Speaking of DFS, speaking of Twitter, saw another screenshot of yours a couple days ago. Congratulations. That was another big one.
Yeah, it was a nice big one. Got my second seat to the live final in August, so excited for that. And yeah, hopefully we can talk some things out and have a good Sunday.
I'm looking forward to it because this is the last call for baseball. We have the All-Star break coming up here, so we are going to be without baseball until Friday. For those of you truly degenerates, and we all know who we are, me included, there will be a single game All-Star slate. Just do that one for fun only, because you want to remember most hitters are only going to get 2 at-bats. Most pitchers, if they pitch, will get 1 inning. It's a lottery ticket at best.
I do feel pretty confident saying that anyone who's watching this show or is on this show falls into that category. So I'm with you 100%.
Yes, catchers are the key. There's 2 catchers on each team. They'll each play about half the game. So there you go. That's about all the analysis we need for that. But today we've got 10 games here. One weather concern, New York. So there is a ton of rain, heavy thunderstorms just to the west of New York. So I was looking at the old weather.com weather in motion, and if it strays at all to the east, it's going to be a mess there today. And that is also what everybody's favorite DFS weather source on Twitter says as well. So I've taken that game out of my pool, but I'm running everything else as is. And then the only other game that had weather is the DC metro area here, where you're just having sprinkles throughout the day. But that game's on now. It's the early Peacock game, so you don't have to worry about that. Any other thoughts before we dive on into this?
No, I didn't take the Yankees game out of my pool. Maybe I should reconsider that. I don't like playing these weather spots. I do like the Cubs bats a lot, though.
Which makes sense. And of course, we're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about all the games here as we maneuver on in. But a reminder, as you guys are and gals are coming on in here, please do hit that like button. It helps us out. And the subscribe button as well. You're going to want to subscribe to the Stochastic suite of channels across YouTube, because best ball, that's what I'm going to be dabbling in for the next couple days, is some best ball drafts. So I will be needing to catch up on some content there. So you guys can check out the fantasy football channel for Stochastic. It's pretty good. And you can also check out our podcast. You'll want to listen to, for those of you not doing best ball, you can listen to Neil Orfield's High Stakes podcast, catch up on a few episodes of those, including Matt and myself, who have both been guests on that. But let's
I did not take you for a best ball, bro.
I'm not hardcore. So, and we got a half a second here. So I listen to a lot of best ball content because it helps out for drafting season-long leagues. And I'm still in a couple money leagues. With season-long leagues with friends, and we've got Stochastic Dynasty League here that I've finished first or second each of the 3 years we've done this. Hashtag go me. But it's a super flex. So I tried to find interesting ones here. I like the best ball concept. For me, summer's really my busiest time at work, so I end up doing slow drafts when I can, and but I'm going to try to find some time to do some fast drafts. But I like to go across the different sites. Some of them are presenting sponsors, not today, but drafters. We've got some deals for them. We've got some deals with Underdog, and of course DraftKings is a pretty popular site. I have won a bunch of DraftKings best ball tickets, so I'm firing off a few slow drafts. They're also doing some promos there. Like if you enter a best ball draft today, you get $5 DraftKings dollars. So just, you know me, I'm out there finding all the good little deals. So that was one of them there. But let's get on in here and kick off the old baseball. Let me get off the weather page, because that is not something I want to keep running, because it's going to crush my RAM here. But let's do our first game. It's going to be the Cubs at Yankees. For those of you feeling bold, you've got all day to play this, but weather could be a concern. What are you thinking about this one? You mentioned you like the Cubs going against Domingo Germán. Didn't he just have a perfect game?
Yeah, that was a very profitable night for me. I used him on his perfect game. I think that's the only time I've used him all year. That's the power of a matchup with the A's. Feel much different about him today. I see he's projected to be pretty popular, one of the highest owned pitchers on the slate, behind only Luzardo. Gotta imagine that comes down, like, with the weather concerns. But if it doesn't, like, it strengthens my case for the Cubs bats here. Germán has not been good this year, except for the one start against Oakland. No issues picking on him at all. Projected, he is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. He's 8th. He's ranked 8th in our top pitchers tool. And again, he's pulling the second most ownership. He's obviously coming in over owned. Now I get it. He's only 6,800. If you get good Germán here, he will easily pay off that salary. He just hasn't really been good all year except for that one start. So I kind of like zigging here where everyone else zags.
All right. Let's see. I don't mind dancing with the weather from time to time. I actually had really good slate on the Chicago game that got postponed. And that one worked out for me quite nicely because I did not play it. And I played on the sub slate where there were 3 games on that. And I took it completely out of my player pool. And I ended up, I think I had 7x my entry fees on that one. So that was kind of fun. That also makes up for the times when I swing and miss, because we got to use baseball metaphors. But this to me feels more like a swing and a miss day. So I'm kind of staying away from this one. Anything else you want to mention for this game?
Not really. I mean, I think the Yankees are fine against Hendricks. He's no one you're afraid to pick on. Stanton got going yesterday. Obviously, if it were a lefty, you have more interest. The Yankees are kind of just a mess spot for me, but I'd use them over Hendricks.
All right, let's go to our next game here. Boston Red Sox. You've got J.P. Sears for Oakland, Taylor Scott. So it looks like probably a bullpen game there for Boston. 5.6 implied run total here for Boston. I don't dislike J.P. Sears. He's someone that ends up as a streamer in my season-long leagues every now and then. This is not the space for that, but I was surprised with the fervor with which people are going to Boston today. Do you think that's warranted, and how do you feel about Boston going against the Southpaw?
No, I'm pretty much with you there. I think they're getting too much love. Sears has been decent, if not good. He was decent last time out against Detroit. Obviously, a much different spot here. I get it. Great ballpark. The weather's hot there. They've been good to people who have used them recently, so why would people get off them? They're getting too much love for me. They're coming in as the highest owned stack on the slate. Now, they are the highest top stack, though. So, like, the data likes them, too. So, I get it. Just not really a spot where I'm going to go because I have more respect for Sears than I think the tools are showing.
Yeah, you and I forget who the pitcher was, but we had that assessment last game or last Sunday, and it also worked out for us. Sometimes you better turn some lights on here.
There's a lot of nuance to this, right? Like you can't take everything as gospel.
It is, and I know there were some people like Andrew Abbott for Cincy, great young pitcher. However, he had been a little bit out over his skis, and in his 2 starts ago, we thought that here's where the wheels come off the wagon. They didn't have a good game. Tons of people victory lapping that, and then his last start, it was pretty rough, right? It's like these guys are good, but they're gonna have bad starts. It's just gonna happen. Going to guess which specific day that's gonna occur, right? Yesterday or last night, it looked like Brandon Wu was going to have some issues there with Houston. Then he settled down after the first inning and was absolutely phenomenal. But you just, you never know. This is a highly variant sport. And I believe enough in JP Sears that I am going to be coming in under the field on Boston myself.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if they were like not getting a lot of love. Like Sears isn't a guy I'm afraid to pick on with a team like Boston, right. But it's the exact opposite of that. So I'm with you here. And I just wanted to clear something up. You got me shaking in my boots a little bit about the Yankees-Cubs game. So what
Okay.
I'm doing is I am not playing any one-offs from that game. I'm going to play a couple Cub stacks, and like if I know that the risk is obviously it doesn't play, but I'm not going to set myself up where other lineups are affected by it.
Yeah, and that's actually a great reminder, because hey, as I was patting myself, just wrenched my arm, patting myself on the back over that midweek postponement we had. I did play some stacks of that game. I took them out of my lineups for one-offs because I thought, hey, you know what, you can stack that, and oh no, it got postponed. Well, great. Wouldn't you have rather had the game postponed, the Domingo Armand's good day, right? Instead of getting a perfect game against you, right? It's just like you just accept it. You compartmentalize.
Exactly. You know that going in.
Yeah, and it's just the way to go, because we know what half of our lineups are DOA as soon as we enter them in baseball. They just still
I was going to say, like,
even if they're positive EV, they just.
I was going to say, even if it's not postponed, the lineup's probably dead anyways, because that's just how baseball works.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Back to this game though. So yeah, Boston, good spot, phenomenal spot. I can see I've got Rob Refsnyder on my DK cash team. And I can see I copied in the wrong one because I have Enrique Hernandez, and that was not the cash game I wanted. I wanted the one I'm going with Refsnyder and Jorge Alfaro from this game. So yeah. So even though I'm saying I'm coming in under on those guys, I'm actually playing them in my air quote main lineup. So,
and I'm playing a little bit of Devers. He's still too cheap, and he's really good.
Yeah. How about coming back the other direction here with any of the Oakland bats? They're one popular guy, Seth Brown. Of course, he's batting third, 2,800 on DK. Nice cheap outfielder there. A couple others around 5% with the Tony Kemp, Manny Pena, Brent Rooker. How are you feeling about these guys against the bullpen? I'm guessing is what it is.
Man, I'm seeing
Taylor Scott. Yeah. So it must be a bullpen.
I like Oakland here. Like, it's hard to ever love Oakland because they're not good and they don't have a ton of power. But if there was ever a spot for them to have a good game, I mean, this is it. In Fenway, hot weather, mad pitching on the mound, nothing special at all, mediocre to bad pitching probably. So the other thing is, like, yeah, they're kind of middle of the pack in top stack. They're upper half, but middle of the pack. They have a 20.5% chance to be the top value stack on the entire slate. That's double the next two highest. Like, that means something, especially with a few expensive pitchers on the slate that are going to be popular and for good reason. I actually like Oakland here. I think their lineup sets up well. They're cheap all over. And again, if there is a spot for them to have a good game for DFS purposes, this is it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they also make for a fine contrarian stack that allows you to roster two of the top pitchers there.
With good hitting.
Yeah.
Like, so there's another stack I like that we'll get to that's expensive. And if you use Oakland, you can get basically whatever you want. They're dirt cheap.
Right. Wow. The pitching is top heavy today, isn't it? And then it falls apart. Okay, let's get on to our next game. Sorry, I'm just setting my crunches up here to run. We've got Aaron Nola in Miami taking on the Marlins. Jesus Luzardo is one of the two top pitchers today. You compare him in cash with the other top pitcher who we'll talk about shortly. Nola, I just will get about where the field is with him. He had a really good, was it his last start that he had all the strikeouts? I believe that was Prize Picks had him paired with somebody else, and he cleared the strikeout hurdle by himself because I think he had 12, and I think the number was 11 and a half with him. And who it was? Oh, that was on 4th of July, I believe, if I remember correctly. So we being the Stochastic Group talked about some of his troubles away from home. I don't think it's enough to really dismiss someone like Nola. This is a major park upgrade for him over Citizens Bank ballpark, and it's an okay Miami lineup. Sadly, no Jazz Chisholm was back for 6 days or whatever, and then had to go on the injured list again. Such a shame here. How are you feeling about these pitchers? And then would you take any hitters at
all? So for the pitchers first, both pitchers look like two of the top pitchers on the slate. actually slightly prefer Nola.
Okay.
It's more of a gut call than anything else. I mean, the data says they're so close. Luzardo's getting a little bit more love. He's been a little bit better than Nola this year. The ballpark is an upgrade for Nola, but he's always been better at home. So I don't know how much to take that into consideration. Everything being equal, they look very similar to me here. I mean, you got a Phillies lineup with no Bryce Harper, Schwarber leading off lefty on lefty. Speaking of Schwarber, though, that's a bat I'm interested in if you're not playing Luzardo. He's only 4,600 leading off here, going to get at least 4 at bats probably. Tough matchup for sure, but he's the kind of one-off that can hit 2 home runs. I know he's hit one off Luzardo before if you care about that type of thing. I'm not looking at either stack here. I prefer Nola slightly, but man, it's close, and I think you can do a lot worse than just pairing them together.
Yeah, I'm looking at Nola. So let's see. The field, we have him for 24% right now. Everything's pretty spread out today for the most part.
I feel like Luzardo, though, is going to be like even the last slate that he was on, he faced the Cardinals, tough matchup. He was 50%. I think you're going to see Luzardo get a lot of love here.
I agree with that. Which I'm going to cap him at 35. I've got him, Bieber, and at 35. I've got Nola at 25 because I want to come in around where the field is. And then I'm going over. We'll talk about Chris Bassett. He's got the matchup against Detroit. You've got Logan Gilbert going against Houston. They are without Yonder Alonso and Jose Altuve. So I'm kind of looking at those guys. And then
Yonder Alonso. Wow, that's a name from the past.
Oh my God, sorry. I was. What's funny is Yordan Alvarez. I was thinking of we used to have a joke way back in the day when I was on Roto Grinders and then at FanVice. We'd always ask me they'd ask who my best first baseman is of the day, and it would always be Paul Goldschmidt if he was against a lefty, or if it would be, and then they'd pick the worst one on the slate, and I'd always pick secret option C, Yonder Alonso. And then he had that magical start to the season, like 6 or 7 years ago, where he had some ungodly 12 home runs in the first month or so, just something
for Oakland.
Yeah, insane. And then never to be heard from again. But that was a nice moment. So he was always one of my favorite players. And yesterday, as I was out walking the dog, I was thinking of all my old. Why do I like some of the players I like? Well, Edgar Martinez and Ichiro, 2 of my favorites, because Seattle Mariners. I lived in Washington State my whole life till I came out to Virginia. I liked Ryan Zimmerman, and now Max Kepler of all people. It's like who roots for a 215 average guy? I do, I guess. It's kind of interesting who I seem to like. It's usually someone kind of random. So anyway, there we are. But sorry, Yonder Alonso. That's so funny that the way my brain stores information.
They do sound similar. So
it's YA, and it's my. I have an issue with that. So, but anyway, back to the task at hand. All things baseball. But rounding back in, I agree with you that Nola and Luzardo are. I bet we'd get another ownership run, and they're probably going to bump up another 5 to 10%. Would be my guess on DK. Now that we have all lineups out, now that people are figuring out that Oakland is cheap, and depending on what they're going to do with those Yankees and Cubs bats, so that'll move around a little bit. Outside of Schwarbs, anybody else from this game?
I never mind Castellanos against a lefty, but Luzardo's really good, so there's nothing about this that I'm like, I need Philly.
All right. Ooh, super chat. William Westry, best stacks and value pitchers on the slate. We're going to talk about them. So let's continue. We'll get a few more games under our belt, but then I'll do a screen share and show you guys this top stacks tool here in a sec. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, 2 amazing offenses, 2 pretty good pitchers. I still can't believe Bryce Elder's going to the All-Star game. But here we are. He's not bad, but he just no strikeouts. This is it's like the old traditional. I haven't looked at him in a couple starts, but he had 2.4 ERA and 1 WHIP. It's just not enough strikeouts. Eflin, 10,500 against Atlanta. I really don't see any reason to go there. Atlanta literally has an all-star lineup because their entire infield is in the all-star game, as is as is Ronald Acuna Jr. from the outfield. So I don't want to tangle with really either side. This isn't a stay away for me, but I'm getting no stacks from these teams. A couple players are coming in as one-offs where I've got the variance cranked up, but that's it.
So, man, this is my biggest stand of the day, I think.
Okay.
I love
this
Tampa
is what the people are here for.
I love Tampa today. You talked about it. These are two of the best offenses in baseball. Atlanta's the best offense in baseball. I don't think anyone would argue that at this point. They're just so loaded. Eflin, though, is not a guy I want to pick on at all. He's been really good this year. Tampa has changed some things with him, and he's been a front of the line starter. Elder has been good, no doubt about it. He's headed to Seattle for the All-Star game, and his underlying numbers are decent. He's struggled his past couple starts, and this is just a brutal matchup for a guy that doesn't get any strikeouts. Tampa lineup is loaded with power and speed upside at that, facing a guy that doesn't get a ton of strikeouts right after they face Spencer Strider, kind of get them taking a breath of relief after Strider struck out 12 yesterday. Tampa's a team like Texas, like Atlanta to me. Whenever they're not getting love, I'm interested. Elder is not a guy that I'm afraid to pick bats against at all. Maybe that's foolish of me, but I like Tampa a lot here. I just think they're really talented and not getting any love.
All right. Citizen 47 or Citizen X 47 in chat wins. He says that Houston is there. They don't have Yonder Alonso, so I wasn't wrong.
No, you weren't.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So if they would have him, then hey, maybe.
Cleveland traded for him for like a minute that year, or maybe the next year after that stretch with Oakland where he was, so good. I remember he won me a GPP when he was with Oakland that first half of that season.
Yeah, that was I know now I have to go.
He bounced around a lot after that.
He did. He did make an all-star team.
Yeah, he did.
That was that year in Oakland, it looks like. He played with, I knew he had a hot minute there with the Mariners too. Cincinnati, San Diego, Oakland, Seattle, Cleveland, Chicago, Colorado.
It's Manny Machado's
well-traveled.
Manny Machado's brother-in-law.
I did not know that. 100 career home runs.
Wow. Speaking of all-star games, though, I just have to bring this up because we talked about it last week, and I thought of you when I heard this. I cannot believe Lane Thomas did not make the all-star team. I can't believe Josiah Gray made it over Gore. Gray's having a decent year. Gore's having a better year. And Lane Thomas is actually having an all-star year. Like, doesn't make sense to me.
No. And then you get Whit Merrifield in there. And you're like, why?
Right.
It's not even I know Whit Merrifield is the American League, but some of the National League guys, you're like, wait, what? How'd that happen? And it was on teams that wasn't like, yeah, you have to send a representative. It was like,
that's what I mean. Like, I don't get it. Like, Washington didn't have many at all viable candidates. They have to send one. Lane Thomas has clearly been their best player this year. Like, good for Gray for making it, but Lane Thomas should have made it even if there wasn't the requirement, in my opinion. He's having that good of a first half.
Yeah, no, I concur. All right, let's get the screen share ready. And in the meantime, let's go back to our game here. So back, we kind of meandered for a moment there, but talk to us a little bit more about the Rays. Anyone in particular you want to target against Elder there as your sneaky play, because you got some cheapies down there with Jose Siri and Christian Betancourt at the bottom of the order. You've got big bats up and down the order. Jonathan Aranda, I have no idea who that is.
2K, he's a prospect for them. He was having a decent year in the minors. He's the flat 2K. So that's the other thing I like about this lineup. The top guys are expensive for a reason. I mean, Wander is an elite shortstop play whenever you can get to him. Massive power speed upside, Yonder and Luke Raley sandwiching him. So I like the top three. Arozarena obviously hitting fourth. But then you got a 2K Aranda. You've got cheap guys towards the bottom. I like the entire lineup. The top four stand out for sure, but they're expensive. So the cheaper guys help balance it out.
All right, we're gonna, just so we can get this super chat in here, we're gonna go to top stacks, and I'm gonna share my screen here so we can see it together. Oh, I gotta log in because we smartly do not let people log in from multiple computers anymore. So every time I switch between my day job computer and my gaming computer or my fantasy computer, this one, I've got to log back in, but I like that. So looking at our top stacks, let's share the screen here. Are you doing DK and FanDuel today, or just?
Nah, I haven't played FanDuel in a minute. I don't know why. Like I go in spurts with FanDuel. Like I consistently play DK every day. FanDuel, I'll go in and out. Like I'll play it for months straight, and then I won't play it for a while. It's just, I don't know. I feel like FanDuel is much more work and effort for me.
Gotcha. All righty. So here we have our top stacks tool. So we reference this a lot, and there's a lot of key information you can look at here. Over on the far right is the stack score. This is kind of putting it all together: leverage, fantasy points, points per dollar, etc. And that's what has Oakland and Boston rising to the top here. Top stack percentage. So what is the likelihood that this is the top stack fantasy points wise? Oakland coming in at 9%. Seattle looking pretty good against rookie Brandon Bielak here. We'll talk about them. We've got Toronto going against the cast-offs of the Detroit Tigers. They're up there. I don't want to tangle with Wade Miley, so I'm going a little bit less with my Cincinnati stacks than what I see here. But a stack I like a ton is Milwaukee going against Ben Lively. So they're all the way down here, and you can look here, leverage. That just means where's their popularity coming in versus their likelihood of being the top stack, et cetera. So that's a kind of fun tool to look at. Let's show you guys FanDuel real quick here as well. But these are the tools that you get behind the paywall. Gotta dip behind the paywall for some of this really good stuff. You can see here Boston is negatively leveraged. They are head and shoulders above everybody for being a top stack today, but everybody's landing on them. So that's kind of a similar story across both of them. Hence, we're saying, hey, while we could be wrong about JP Sears, I don't think he's going to shut them out. But what if he absorbs 4 or 5 home runs, and that's it? What if there's only a couple doubles and no home runs, right? That can make a stack. On paper, they gave up 7 runs, but if it was on, 2 doubles and the rest singles, your stack's not going to do very much. And if it's
first you said 4 runs, now we're talking 7.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, even more. I'm saying, was it the Nationals within the last 2 weeks had scored like 9 runs and they had 1 double.
Well, like, that's hard to
stack
do
the
these
Nationals.
days.
It's like, no, you shouldn't have stacked the Nationals. They didn't have any extra base hits.
That's one thing I am worried about a little bit with Oakland is that could easily happen with them here.
Yes. All righty. We'll close that. But so to summarize top stacks, I think Milwaukee is your off the board stack. Boston is obviously the clear stack, and then he was asking for cheap pitchers. Chris Bassett, I probably is where you're going to look at. I'm okay with Wade Miley. I'm okay, but his strikeout upside isn't quite there. I'd probably try to look to the 3 big ones we mentioned: Luzardo, Nola, and then we'll talk about Bieber here in a minute. But those, I think you can work those guys in. There's enough teams that have cheap guys out here, giving some of the veterans a day off before the All-Star break. Plus, it's Sunday already.
And I like Joe Ryan a lot.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, Joe Ryan. So we got a lot more to talk about. And speaking of a lot more to talk about, let's get back to the good stuff here. Continuing along, we're going to get to Shane Bieber. So Ryan Yarbrough is coming off the disabled list. Remember, he had facial fractures, took a line drive off the face. Yikes. Very scary stuff. He is back. We want to remember about Yarbrough. He's 31, no spring chicken, and he's not that great either. So hat tip to him for coming back. But I think Cleveland is an intriguing stack. Here's the problem with Cleveland, however, and this is kind of we're dovetailing as part of the MLB strategy show, which we don't have on Sundays. But Cleveland, all of their production is concentrated in basically 4 hitters, and then they've got garbage on the rest of their lineups. And let's see who made their final order here. Because if you look at their bottom of their order, Will Brennan's okay, but Tyler Freeman's crap, Miles Straw, failed leadoff hitter, Cam Gallagher, backup catcher. That's 3 up, 3 down is what the back of the lineup is. Yes, Rosario, Ramirez, Naylor, and Jimenez are really good. But even like Steven Kwan, but he's the leadoff hitter. Yeah, he's got a .088 ISO. He does not get extra base hits. He has two triples and 2 home runs this year and 20 doubles. And he has, but he steals bases. No, he has 2 stolen bases in his last 16 games. He has a black hole at the top of that lineup from a fantasy perspective. He will be on base. He will score some runs, but he's not contributing himself. So that's where I wrote up Cleveland as our mid-slate stack of the day. I wanted to go to them on the full slate here, and I can't quite get there just because looking at that lineup. Yes, if all the 4 guys are doing what they need to do, that's great. But with all these holes in the lineup, that could be just empty innings where nothing happens. And you can't do that.
Those 4 guys you talked about, I don't even think are that good besides from Ramirez. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Even when you look at their power. Yeah, it was unfortunate, but that's why I write a stack for each of the slates. Otherwise, I'd be writing about the Yankees and Atlanta and everybody the same 5 offenses, and that gets boring when you do 200 baseball articles a year. So my gimmick is to write a stack from every slate most days. So it helps you uncover stuff, but it also does give you an advantage if you're playing those sub slates, and those are my most profitable slates. So that's the reason we do that. So I've talked about that. We talked about talking about Bieber. Challenge with him. Fastball's down 2 miles an hour from where it was before he had that. I forget, it was some sort of shoulder. It wasn't a shoulder subluxation. It was some shoulder injury. His strikeouts, they're not there anymore. That's a little terrifying as well, but I still like this matchup for him. He's my number 2 starter on the day. I'm pairing him with Luzardo in my cash games. For me, it's all Guardians all the time. They're your favorite team. I now turn this over to you.
I do not like anything about them today at all. I don't. I can't with them. But as far as their offense goes, we just touched on it. I think they're in a good spot against Yarborough. Ramirez looks like an elite bat on today's slate, so like him a lot. The top 4, you talked about Rosario, Naylor's having a really good year. I get why Cleveland's getting some love. They're actually coming in with a little bit of leverage in our top stack tool. So there's a lot to like there. They're 5th in they're coming in 5th overall in top stack percentage. So I get why Cleveland's getting love. And then Bieber, I don't know. He's getting way too much ownership. He's 9K. I feel like you're paying for the name. He's been okay this season. It's not like he's been awful, but he's been nowhere close to the Bieber that we're used to seeing. Strikeouts,
7.2 strikeouts per 9. That's a career low.
Way
it's down 2 from last year. It's down from his 10.2 career rate. It's down dramatically from his awesome 2021 season where he had 12.4 per 9. Just crazy.
And one thing I've noticed about Kansas City the past couple days, at least in like the big GPP, like the 888, the winning lineup had pieces of Kansas City, even though the pitcher for the Indians was really good. Kansas City runs a lot when they get on base. They've got some guys with power. Actually going to flip it a little bit. I like some of the Kansas City pieces. I mean, again, Bieber is more likely to succeed here than Kansas City, but we're talking about getting to the mountaintop in a tournament. So that being said, I like taking my shot with some Kansas City hitters. They're really, really cheap. Even a guy like Bobby Witt is down to 4,600. Perez is 4,300. I'm not going to use Bieber here. I'm going to use some Kansas City bats. That could bite me in the ass, but I'm willing to take that shot here.
Yeah, one of our better bets of the day is MJ Melendez scoring a run and MJ Melendez home run. Now his home run
2,600 today.
Yeah, his home runs are long odds, but if you look at Odd Shopper, you can at least when it was posted when I wrote that part of the article, you were getting about a 10 to 12% inefficient line. So when you're doing home runs, almost always you're going to find the best lines at FanDuel. For that, you occasionally others will pop off, but consistently before at least 2 hours before start, you get the best numbers on FanDuel. The closer it gets to lock, then magically all the popular home run guys go down in their odds, which is like, that's not what it was earlier. So you got to bet some of these earlier. But
and I will say, with weather issue in New York, I think a lot of that Herman ownership gets flooded to Bieber and Bassett. I'm surprised Bassett isn't getting more love than he's projected for right now. I think he pulls some of that Herman ownership, and Bieber comes in popular. I mean, pitchers have just been doing really well against Kansas City. Kansas City does strike out a lot. So, like, I understand why people like Bieber here. He's not cheap, but he's not too expensive at all, especially considering the options around him. I prefer other guys, but I certainly get it.
All right. I think we beat the hell out of that one. Chris Bassett, that segues nicely into this one. 8,400. He's had an up and down year. He's had some downright horrible starts. This is the matchup with the cherry on top, going against the Detroit Tigers, who have improved a little bit throughout the year, but they're still last in WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus, which is a scoring efficiency metric that neutralizes things like defense and ballpark factor, et cetera, to create a league-wide scoring baseline of 100. And then, so whatever you are above or below that, that's the percentage of how worse you are against the average teams in similar situations. Detroit is a full standard deviation below everybody else. It's not even, they're that bad. So Chris Bassett, question mark. Does he got a little dog in him today? See what I did there? Bassett, dog.
Yeah, and speaking of on that trend, like the animal trend, I just can't believe you didn't call them the Motor City Kitties.
I'm sure people don't like when I do
one of my
that.
favorite. Really?
I like it too.
I love it. It's like one of my favorite things. And I heard you on a show with someone else a couple weeks ago. I mean, this was not recent. I mean, a couple weeks ago, and you said it, and they also laugh. So
yeah,
I'm surprised people don't like it.
It's funny, and people are like, oh, I didn't come up with. I've heard that.
Of course, you didn't make.
That's not mine, but I like to say it because it just shows the perfect amount of disrespect.
It's funny. Especially being from Cleveland, I love it. So, Bassett here. I don't know. Detroit is not good, obviously, but they did get a couple guys back who were recently injured. Kerry Carpenter's back in the lineup. He's arguably their best hitter from the left side. Riley Green back in the lineup. Again, I'm not scared of Detroit. I'm not looking to use Detroit. Bassett is the side of this game I think you'd go to. He's affordable. Surprised he's not getting a lot of love. I don't think I'm going to get there because I do like Nola, I like Luzardo, and I like Ryan more. And it's easy to get up to those guys, especially with cheap bats all over. But I think Bassett's right below those guys. And if I needed a cheap pitcher or a cheaper pitcher, if you will, he's the guy I'd go to.
All right. In chat, Nate says, I'm from Michigan. I've never heard that. That's hilarious. You've got Eric Traub, go team Eric. He says, don't disrespect his teams. You also use it for the Lions. It's more fun to say for baseball because it's just
every time I see the Tigers or obviously playing MLB DFS. So I think about it every time and I chuckle inside.
We've got that one. We've got the batters of Birdland for Baltimore. Because they call Birdland.
The Motor City Kitties just hits different, though. It just does.
It does. All right. Top stack on FanDuel. Danny, that's going to be Boston per the numbers. It's going to be Boston. So back to this one. How are you feeling about some of the Toronto bats going against? So I've seen two different things. It is going to be Tariq Skubal going today. I thought I saw Olsen and
he did.
Starting lineup.
Olsen did come in for him. Scooble made his first start of the year last time out, and Olsen came in for him after 5 innings. Scooble did not allow a hit. He hurt his side a little bit, so I think that probably had something to do with him coming out. But Scooble is not stretched out all the way. I'm surprised Toronto is so high on our top stack tools because Scooble is good. He does give up power a little bit, but he's good. This is a guy I expect to make all-star teams in the future. I think he's Detroit's best young arm. So I'm surprised Toronto is that high on our top stack tool.
I think it's only because they're so cheap. Because
their lineup doesn't look.
It's great. A bad lineup today.
Right. I don't know. I'm not really feeling Toronto as much as the tools think I should, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes. Now, I will say my cash lineup does have Merrifield. It had 3, so I'm guessing it was Merrifield, Vladdy, and probably Bichette. But cash games are different than
for sure. Cash games are a lot different. I mean, those guys are cheap and they're in good spots. I'll put it like this, and this is part of the reason I ended up liking Tampa. I think Skubal is a better pitcher than Bryce Elder. Like, I get it. Elder's having a very good year. Skubal's only making a second start. But, like, I just don't see, you know what I mean? I just don't really see that big of a difference between these two teams. So it just makes me like a team like Tampa more. That said, you just talked about it. Toronto's cheap, and they do have power from the right side. So if they get to Skubal a little bit, then you're going to get this bullpen. It makes some sense.
Alrighty, so quickly here, we do have the BetMGM is our, I'm going to drop this link here into chat for you, but you can also get it in the YouTube description below us here. But for BetMGM, oops, that's not the right one. Well, there's Prize Picks. You can get Prize Picks as well. We'll talk about them in a sec. But BetMGM, use the promo code Platinum Sub or go get the link below us here in the YouTube description. And here's what you get. As soon as you make a $10 wager, you're going to get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. How does that work? Well, you sign up using our promo code or coming in through our link into BetMGM. And once you make your $10 bet and it settles, they will give you a promo code for 30 days of Stochastic. You just have to go over to the Stochastic subscription page, choose the 30-day subscription package, put that code in there, and it's going to make it free for you. Pretty easy. By the way, whatever you make for your first wager, up to $1,000, you get a second chance if it loses. Meaning if you bet $10 and lose, they will give you a $10 bet credit all the way up to $1,000. You'll have 7 days to use those bet credits. So pretty good deal there. All right, let's continue along here. Ooh, 4 more to go. Seattle, Houston. Logan Gilbert, I think, is an intriguing option only because Houston is without their 2 best hitters today. Apologies to Kyle Tucker, who is, we'll call him number 3, but he soon will be their best hitter. It's a dicey proposition there. On the other side, you've got Brandon Bielak. You've got Seattle with a 4.6 implied run total here. Teoscar Hernandez, 3,300 on DK. He made my cash game lineup there. I'm going to give out my whole cash game lineup, basically. I think I've talked about all but 2 players so far. But he is standing out. I think you can actually stack Seattle in this one. Houston still has an okay bullpen, though, and Seattle is, they're just kind of pedestrian here. But they could put everything together, which would be nice. And they'll be relatively popular, though, as we look.
Who do you like more, Boston or Seattle today?
Seattle.
I agree. I think they're similar, though. I do respect Sears a bit more than Bielak. But I don't know. Both of those teams are just coming in overowned. I get it, though. Like, especially with Seattle, you talked about, they're really cheap. They've got power. Bielak is certainly not a guy you're afraid to use guys against. I like other spots more, but I get the Seattle side. Gilbert in Houston, I'd play Gilbert over Houston, but I just don't really see going to Gilbert with other guys that I like more. Luzardo, Nola, Ryan, he's in that price range.
How many lineups would you have to build before you have Gilbert on it?
Probably 50.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. If you were targeting one-ops against Gilbert because he does allow home runs from time to time, who would you go with?
I think it's Tucker for sure. I like Tucker a lot. I don't disagree with you that he's their 3rd best hitter, but you could say he's their 2nd right now. I'd probably take him right now over Altuve.
That's fair. That's fair.
Alvarez is just like Alvarez isn't Acuna good in my opinion, but he's like right on the next level.
He can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
There's always something that it just, unfortunately.
He is really, really good though.
Yes. God, he is. When healthy, he's easily one of the 5 best hitters in the league, I would say.
I agree.
Because of his even left on left.
you put Jose Ramirez in there?
Yes, as a switch hitter, I would put Acuna in there. I'm missing somebody from the and Seager, Corey Seager.
Yeah, he's really, really good.
For all around, obviously Luis Arias is the average guy, but for all around power,
for sure.
lack of or discerning eye, all that, those would be the 4 of the top 5.
I haven't looked at any type of MVP odds, but I got to imagine Seager's right at the top of the list in the AL.
I would think so. I'll pull that up in just a sec here. But let me kick you off on the next game here. And then we'll show a little bit lineup generator here. I'm going to upload my lineups real quick. We've got Lucas Giolito, Steven Matz battling it out in Chicago. Going to be a warm one here, 80 degrees. Lucas Giolito, inconsistent. Was looking like a bit of a bust after the Nationals dealt him for Adam Eaton of all people. And then he relinked up with this high school coach who I think ended up being in the pitching staff coaches for Chicago, and he was amazing. And then now it's kind of falling apart again. I don't know what to do with him. I'm probably not going to play either pitcher from this game. Steven Matz, on the other half, he's a batting practice pitcher at this point. An almost entirely right-handed lineup here for the White Sox. It feels like Tim Anderson's been slumping after being one of the most elite hitters against southpaws forever, but Anderson, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Jake Berger, they're all good. Talk to me about this guy. Are you getting to any of the pitchers?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not Matt.
Focus on the offense then.
I was going to say Giolito isn't the worst option, but there's just other guys I like more.
Yeah.
The White Sox look like one of the top stacks of the day. I mean, Matt's is not very good at this point. This White Sox lineup is pretty lethal against lefties. I mean, the bottom of it stinks, but it is what it is. Robert, Jimenez, Vaughn, Berger, Anderson, 2 through 6 or 7 right there look good. You got a cheap Remillard hitting leadoff. Chicago looks like one of the top stacks on the board. I'm getting to some of them, and I wouldn't mind if I got more of them. I like them quite a bit here.
How deep would you run the stack? Would you go for trios, or would you go all the way to 5-man stacks for sure?
I'd 5-man them, especially like the middle of that order. And then think about the bottom of the order. Yeah, they're not good, but they're really cheap. You got a guy like Oscar Colas hitting 7th at 2,200. He hasn't done anything at the major league level, but he's got a ton of speed upside. He's got a little bit of power. You get matched in this crappy Cardinals bullpen. Like, I got no problem with anyone in Chicago's lineup. The cheap guys simply because they're cheap.
No, that makes sense. I'm really talking myself into this lineup. It works out so nicely.
It really does. I mean, especially with Remillard hitting leadoff, like Tim Anderson, if he were good still, this lineup would be even better. Man, his fall off has been crazy. I
am now making a set of stacks without Tim Anderson in it because there's your differentiation. Just don't play him. Just don't play him, and you're going to be different than the stacks. There we go. 3% of my lineups now are Chicago stacks without Tim Anderson.
I love it.
Oh, we are meandering today. We got 2 to go. Lock is at 135. We're going to show you the lineup generator here in just a moment, but I'll remind everybody to get behind the paywall. You could do so for free. We already talked about that BetMGM deal there. Sign up through our link and get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. We've got the avatar contest. So go to stochastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice, win or place first, second, or third in a contest of at least 5,000 people. First, second, or third, no ties. So if it's a 10-way tie for first, that doesn't count. You guys know the drill. But send that screenshot with your awesome or Stochastic avatar visible in the screenshot to Stochastic HOF on Twitter, and we will get you 30 days of Stochastic Premium, as well as feature you in the Lofty's Hall of Fame segment. So definitely check that out. All right, Matt, Baltimore and Minnesota. Talk to us about Joe Ryan. You mentioned you like him a lot today.
Yeah, and man, I was just talking to someone yesterday, and I said, man, picking on Baltimore is a bad idea these days. Now with obviously Gunnar and Adley up, you've got Jordan Westberg, Colton Cowser. These are like elite prospects that they've called up now. I know Adam talks about them a lot because he's a huge Baltimore fan. I'm not a huge Baltimore fan, and I recognize how good these guys are. That said, Joe Ryan is, I wouldn't say like an elite SP, but he's on that next level. He's not getting as much love as the other two guys. He's at home. Kind of reminds me, and again, this is probably just, me being foolish about it, but it does remind me a little bit of the spot at home he had against the Red Sox a couple starts ago where he was just dominant, complete game shutout. I'm not expecting that here, but I think you're going to see the best he has to offer tonight, and his numbers are skewed in a bad way because of that start he had against Atlanta. So I still think this guy is one of the best pitchers in the league, not getting as much love as the other guys. I like him quite a bit here.
So how crazy is it that Cedric Mullins is no longer their leadoff hitter?
I mean,
he's been injured a little bit. He doesn't really lead off against lefties all that often, but I thought he was just installed as a fixture there, and he is.
Yeah, I kind of did too. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves back there. Wouldn't be surprised if he moves back there, like in the second half of the season. Or agreed, though. Like, it is a little bit surprising that against righties he's not leading off. He's hitting fifth, really, for them.
Was the 5 home run game that was against for Ryan? That was Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you were picking somebody for a home run today from Baltimore, who would it be?
I mean, they got left-handed power all over. It'd probably be Gunnar. It'd probably be Gunnar. Yeah. As far as a home run goes, Gunnar, Adley,
Santander.
Yeah, Santander. That's your guy. You've been hot with the home run calls too. So
I've had a nice little run there. We'll have to see who the home run for today is. Oh wait, there it is. It's going to be. I got Max Kepler. I had a lot of bets with him in it on Independence Day, which was nice. Speaking of Max Kepler and the rest of the squad here, how are you feeling about the Twins? A little Byron Buxton, a little Alex Kirilloff, as if we needed more cheap people today. Yeah, Gibson just absorbs punishment. It's hard to say.
Gibson's just a guy. Certainly not using Gibson here. I'd get the Minnesota pieces first. The only thing I'll say is I'm not using Minnesota because of this, but in a tiebreaker situation, Baltimore's bullpen is elite. Last day before the All-Star break, if it's a close game, you're going to see those two monsters, Cano and Batista at the end. Like, you better get to them early. You could get to Gibson early. I understand why anyone likes Minnesota. They're middle of the pack as far as top stacks, right by Chicago and Milwaukee. I know Milwaukee's a team you like, which we'll talk about next. I like Minnesota. There's just other teams I like more. I think that's just the kind of the nature of this slate when you got so many games.
No, that makes sense. Let's hit the last game here. I do like the Brew Crew. Love the Brew Crew today. Making some fun little. That Independence Day got me a lot of. So Dinger Tuesday on FanDuel. So it got me. I made 10 home run wagers. So how it works there is if you make a $25 home run bet, you get $5 for every home run hit in that game, up to $25. So I ended up hitting 2 of my 10 bets, which made me like $10. And then I had 145 in bet credits for each of the 5 home runs. So I'm trying to convert that now. I'm trying to monetize that into my money and not site credit. But I came so close to turning $5 into 1,100 yesterday in this very game that we're going to talk about because I liked both sides last night. Tonight, this afternoon, I really like the Brewers. It's more because I'm not a fan of Ben Lively. So let's say some things that may not be nice about Ben Lively. Let's remember he failed out of the league He spent 3 years pitching in the KBO. He's back. He has just been awful, awful, awful. He is coming off the injured list. He had a strained pectoral. In his 4 of his 6 starts prior to that, he allowed multiple home runs. I'm sensing home runs from this game. I will be making a home run call from this game. Do you ever pick against Wade Miley?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Again, it's not really like a guy I love picking against because he seems to be a guy that, while he's not great, does a good job of limiting power and like not getting lit up. That said, I do think, and I could tell from the beginning when you talk about Wade Miley, I think you respect him a little bit more than I do. The Cincinnati lineup is freaking good right now. And
it is.
They're expensive, but they're third in our top stack tool. So that kind of should just tell you all you need to know about how good they are right now. I'm not personally getting there. I don't want to pay these elite prices against a guy that I don't think is a gas can at all. Like Miley is another one that's just a guy to me. He's certainly not a gas can. On his good days, he can go up against anyone. So I'm not overly interested in Cincinnati, and I'm surprised that Milwaukee isn't higher on the top stack tool. Now I feel that way about a bunch of teams. That said, outside of Boston, it's a lot of these teams are lumped together. So, 0.1% difference, isn't really moving the needle for me personally.
All right. I hate to go with Adames, but he is going to be my home run call. I don't say hate that. It almost feels like cheating, but he's only 4,000 on DK. He does have he had 2 home runs yesterday. I think he's had 3 already in this series. I'm going there. I normally it would be Jesse Winker, but he has just been in like a 2-year slump. And
yeah, is he even in the lineup? I didn't see it come out.
I believe he is batting third, which
stinks. He had that one good year.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's batting cleanup because, of course, he is. The back end of this lineup is as much as I besmirched the back end of the Cleveland lineup. This is a pretty bad lineup as well. However, they are a little more productive than the disastrous Cleveland void.
The top guys are like priced down. Adames, you talked about 4K. Yelich, only 4,400. He has been really good this month. So, I like at least mini stacks from them for sure. They're in a good spot against a pitcher. Lively is definitely worse than Miley to me. That's why the top, where these teams are in the top stack tool is interesting.
All right. Who is your home run call? And I'm going to show the lineup generator for everybody at home.
I'm going to go Wander Franco.
Okay. Let's go to the MLB lineup generator. Let's go over here to. Did I get this to work? No, I did not. What? Why won't it let me in on the lineup generator? I'm going to be sad now. Who are your top stacks as I try to figure out what the heck I've done incorrectly here?
I think the teams most likely to succeed: Boston, Seattle.
There we go.
Try the White Sox are in there, and then my off the board team that I like a lot is Tampa, and I like Oakland too. I will say, when I looked at the top stack tool this morning, Oakland was higher up than they are now. Now, also it also goes into the fact that these teams are all lumped together. So I also like Oakland here.
All right, so this is our lineup generator. I'm going to play around with this because it is a lot of fun. So basically, it works for the main slate. So whatever the sites designate as their main slates, and I know on Saturdays they've been a little bit wonky to what they're doing, but it takes a lot of processing power on the back end to get this up and ready. So we just dedicate this to the main slate. But we can go to DraftKings or FanDuel. We haven't talked a lot about FanDuel today. Let's click on FanDuel for the lineup generator. You can choose your stack types. You can go 4-4, 4-3, 4-2-2. On DraftKings, you can go 5-0, 5-3, and 4-4. So let's do 4-4s here. You can do all kinds of lineups, balanced lineups, contrarian, chalky, etc. Let's do chalky just for fun because you'll see it really isn't all that chalky. You can lock in one pitcher and one hitter. If you like, we're going to skip that and let's build out some lineups here. So how this works is it creates a lineup. You look at it, decide if you like it or not. Look at this. It's bringing in Cleveland for us. So this is showing Cleveland. And Boston, the heavily popular Boston at popular Cleveland. This is still looking like it's kind of chalky, but when you start looking at Will Brennan at just 3% and Masataka Yoshida at 13%, that's going to make this quite
also
less
Eflin.
chalky. Also got Eflin, yeah, at 8.5%. So let's save that one. We hit save, it goes into the holding pen, and then now it'll create you another lineup. We can save a whole bunch of these here. It really likes these stacks, clearly, the pricing. So you can see we've saved a bunch of them. You can save up to 20, and once you've done that, you can download them. And you can check them out. So and upload them to your DFS site of choice. You can see here you've got the export to CSV button. This is showing us the overall exposure here. So Rob Refsnyder is popping in everybody's models today because he's so darn cheap. But he's coming in on a ton of our lineups. I think he's great in a cash game, but he is someone that will be probably quite popular. If you don't put him in your Red Sox stack, you're probably already making it different. Just because of how lineup optimizers work. But what this is doing is taking rid of all the bad lineups and not giving them to you. So the lineup generator only gives you good, positive expected value lineups. It's looking for correlation within this. It's looking at what we think the ownership will be. It's taking into account leverage. This is actually a really good tool. So it's $8.95 a week. Promo code SCORE gets you your first week for 50% off. So not even $5. Even if you're playing, $10, $5 a day in DFS baseball, one, this takes all the heavy lifting out of you. Two, you don't need to have an optimizer. And three, it's cheap. Essentially, it will probably it'll probably improve your ROI if you're net neutral to sort of break even player. It will get you over the profitability line, or at least make your dollars go farther without having to redeposit. But this is one of the coolest tools out there. We try to make it at a very affordable price point so everybody can access it. We've got sophisticated tools like the sim tool and the other stuff. This uses a lot of same things that the simulation tool does. It just is distilling it down to a smaller subset of things. But that's why there's a lot of cool stuff that goes. I don't want to give all the secrets also, but there's a lot of cool stuff that goes into this.
I'm not really playing Boston today, so I'm not playing Refsnyder. I should have tried the ultimate reverse jinx and picked him for my home run call. Watch it, though. He wouldn't have homered and gotten 3 doubles with 2 steals.
Let me see if I can.
He's going to be really popular, especially when you see something like this.
Yeah. So my cash game lineup on DK is Luzardo, Bieber, Alfaro, and Refsnyder from this game. Vladdy, Merrifield, and Chapman going against the Detroit game. Again, they're cheap. They're correlated together. And, I think Tariq Skubal is a very good pitcher. He's probably got, 60, 65 pitches in him as he works his way back.
Right.
But these guys are cheap, so cheap with
also
in there.
Skubal is good, but Toronto, at least their top of the lineup is still really good. I mean, you're talking about Vlad, those guys are really good still, so it makes a lot of sense.
And then Willie Adames and Christian Yelich and Teoscar Hernandez. So, yep, look at that. I forgot I had Adames in there, and that was my home run guy. So I feel pretty strongly about these. So I think that's a pretty decent lineup. Biebs is the only one I'm a little nervous about. You could flip Biebs for Nola, downgrade from Vladdy, and put in another first baseman, and you got a perfectly good lineup.
So, for sure.
Let's see here. Did we get everybody's questions in? Getting way too much Giolito. Ooh, friends don't let friends play Lucas Giolito.
I don't really see the appeal of Giolito here. He's not cheap. He's facing a lineup that doesn't strike out a ton. Yeah, they're mostly righties, but I don't know. As bad as St. Louis has been this year, it's just not a lineup I want to pick on ever, unless it's a top. Giolito's a good starting pitcher, but he's not as good as the Joe Ryans, Nolas, Luzardos, and he's in their price range in probably a more difficult spot than them. So yeah.
All right, Nick Thompson says he's 60% Giolito. That is, I can tell you where I am. I capped mine. How much did I get? Oop, that's my cash lineup. I got 10% Giolito.
All that being said,
hit my cap.
It's MLB. Watch Giolito throw a gem. That's not going to be surprising to me if he pitches really well. Just not a guy I'm getting to.
Yeah, in my article when I was writing horrible things about Stephen Kwan, I thought, you know what, this is his jack in a bag, to borrow a phrase from friend of mine, friend of yours, friend of everybody, Pepsi 7.
Yeah, man, I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, Chris Lauer there, jack in a bag.
Years.
Yeah, Kwan is gonna somehow gut me, but that is what it is. Alrighty, that takes us up to lock here, everybody. So remember, we got the All-Star break upon us here. So, but we're going to be featuring some other shows and content during this. Of course, we've got PGA during this time frame. We've got tons of best ball stuff. It's a good time to listen to some of the old podcasts that we have on the Stochastic Podcast Network, especially the high stakes episodes with Neil Orfield. Those are they're evergreen because it's interviews with various luminaries within the DFS arena and me. So I'm not a luminary, but there I am. You can listen to Matt was just a couple episodes back. Got to learn a lot of fun stuff about him. So check those out and just have some fun. Take it easy here. Last day of baseball for four days, and then Friday we fire it all back up again. Looking forward to that. But with that, you can follow Matt on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. I am at EMac DFS. It is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers,